The day after I woke up and told my wife, why did I do that? I don't know. I just don't know what the hell goes on. I remember one thing, I had a very hard moment in that part of my life, but I assure you in that age, I could have put that clown in the first round, but I sold my soul and I'm ashamed of it.
Is it true that you made $170 million from this fight?
I made a lot of money, the most money I've made ever.
60 million households, Jake.
250 million people.
Bro, that is so
It's all downhill
crazy.
from here.
No, for sure.
I peaked.
How do you think the Jake Paul Anthony Joshua fight plays out?
I don't know. I want to make sure. I believe it once I see him in the ring.
If Paul starts his boxing career earlier, could Jake Paul have been a champion?
Alright, so the ending was already written before anyone stepped in the ring. Anthony Joshua didn't just beat Jake Paul, he completely shattered an entire fantasy and made Mike Tyson quietly confess that he picked money over mayhem. Boxing now looks scripted in a way that can't be undone. This has to be fake. Let's go back, because understanding this moment means accepting one truth. This wasn't competition. This was betrayal in slow motion that finally exploded when an actual heavyweight met a celebrity and reality kicked back in.
I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. I told y'all, they made Mike Tyson retract his statement on Twitter. They made him rewrite a post on top of deleting a post. Yeah, I told you that fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul was rigged. I told you that. I don't care what Mike Tyson is saying now, he have to do that to secure his money. He's still an investment for future exhibitions or
That ringside shot of Tyson watching Joshua tear Paul apart still haunts me because his face wasn't showing pride or surprise. That was recognition mixed with deep regret, the kind of regret that climbs your spine when you watch someone else do exactly what you got paid to avoid. Every instinct in Tyson's body understood it, and if you think that didn't crush him completely, you're fooling yourself. Nobody wants to face this next part because it gets messy quick. Tyson could have finished Jake Paul any second he chose, and everyone in that arena understood it, Jake included. That's what makes this Joshua knockout cut so deep. It exposed that the limit was always artificial and the threat was always genuine. Once that reality spills out, there's no putting it back regardless of how many PR statements get written. The second Joshua dropped Paul in round 5, everything changed, because suddenly every previous fight got put under a microscope, and you could feel audiences everywhere mentally going back to that Tyson fight asking the same dangerous question simultaneously. Why didn't this happen? Why didn't he finish it? Why did this feel so different? Once those questions start spinning, there's no stopping them.
Sit down on a podcast one time and he talked about it. He said, I don't want to do an exhibition against Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
He said, I'm only doing real fights. Now, of course, I can't get up high in weight, but I'll fight him in a real fight at the weight that I'm at. But Jake Paul, I mean, as of right now, for what he's doing, it's good for what he's doing. But once he fights a real fighter, it's going to be bad.
Everyone keeps saying this was a mismatch, but that word's too soft for what actually went down, because this was revelation. This was physics coming back after years of being ignored, and Joshua wasn't rushing anything, he was stalking it, which makes it terrifying. When a legitimate fighter takes his time, it means he already knows how it ends, and Jake could feel that certainty closing in on him round after round. Then the 6th round hit like a judgment, and I don't mean just the punch, I mean what it represented, because that right hand didn't only crack bone, it shattered permission for this whole charade to keep masquerading as boxing, and when titanium plates become part of the conversation, the laughter stops immediately, and anyone still joking is either heartless or pretending. What gives me chills is Eddie Hearn saying Jake got his debut, and AJ delivered his retirement, because that wasn't just promotion, that was a eulogy, and promoters don't speak like that unless they know the coffin is actually closed. If you think Jake wasn't replaying those words while staring at those hospital ceiling tiles, you're completely missing the mental destruction.
Eddie, I want to follow with you because when this fight was first announced, you had said something to the effect of this would end Jake Paul's career. After what you saw tonight, do you think that Jake should continue to box, or what do you think the future holds for him?
Yeah, no, I really take my hat up. So, I mean, we have to see if it is a broken jaw, those injuries are very difficult to come back from. But as AJ said, like that last shot would have knocked out a lot of heavyweights. And I know he went down heavy, but you know, he was conscious on the floor. And I thought his game plan, although obviously very negative early on, which it had to be.
Now, going back to Tyson reveals the calculation behind holding back when you should have unleashed everything. This wasn't going to end well, it was destined to be completely one-sided. But Joshua ripping everything apart creates this crushing comparison because one fighter followed the plan while another destroyed it completely, and history only remembers one of those decisions, regardless of the paycheck size. I don't care how many people scream conspiracy because Tyson cracked that door himself when he confessed he doesn't even recall the fight and woke up wondering why he agreed to it, because that's not someone proud of their work. That's someone who knows they abandoned something holy, and that kind of remorse gets stronger over time, not weaker. Listen carefully because this matters. Joshua didn't need words after the fight because his violence spoke everything, and quiet backed it up. And when silence becomes the strong message in the building, it means the truth is too clear to twist, and every celebrity fighter watching just felt their confidence shatter, whether they'll admit it or not.
Are you in pain?
Yeah, but it's not from like talking.
What's it feel like having your jaw reconstructed? Because there's basically a baseball lodged in there now. 2 titanium plates. It's intense.
Feels like
4 titanium plates.
4 titanium plates. How many do you have?
Just 1.
This tells a much darker story that nobody wants to examine yet because it threatens the entire business structure if one legitimate heavyweight can destroy years of marketing in 6 rounds. Then how weak was this whole system from the beginning? If that question makes you uncomfortable, it should, because someone is definitely panicking behind closed doors right now, trying to control what this means.
Oh no, I don't remember the fight that much. I kind of blanked out a little. Listen, know what I remember? Coming back from the first round, and then the next day I remember Jacob doing some kind of, I don't know, what was he doing at the ring?
Oh yeah, a little bow at the end, he bowed.
And that's the last thing I remember. You know, but the day after the fight, right after, the day after, I woke up and told my wife, why did I do that? You know, I don't know. I just don't know what the hell goes on.
What did you think about Jake's power when you were in there with him? I can't stop picturing Tyson watching that shattered jaw update because bodies don't lie and publicity can't debate with fractured bones, and witnessing actual evidence of what genuine power does makes you face every moment. Decided not to unleash it, and this cannot be happening unless guilt is already consuming him, worse than he's showing. Here's a dangerous thought you need to consider. If Tyson is now publicly confessing that cash controlled results, then how many other fights are going to get questioned by everyone? Because once trust breaks, it spreads like wildfire, and boxing has always lived on faith, and that faith is dying right now. Something else that haunts me is how relaxed Joshua appeared throughout, because composed fighters are the most lethal and the most truthful, and his composure felt like someone performing a reset. Not hunting fame and resets don't stop with one victim. They spread outward, so wonder who feels vulnerable next.
I'm just hoping after this Floyd fight, maybe we can have a rematch. He did well, but I want to try it again.
Is that something that you would be interested in terms of righting the wrong and knocking them out?
This doesn't conclude with highlight reels or media sound bites, because the quiet that followed feels orchestrated, and when everything goes silent, this abruptly, it usually means contracts are getting rewritten and evidence is getting buried, and I don't believe it, not even slightly, because this mess is still developing and something worse is definitely approaching, and when it explodes, it's gonna make this knockout seem like just the opening move. What keeps replaying for me is how unavoidable this all seemed looking back, like the sport finally got exhausted with the act and chose to snap everything back to reality, because for years that boundary between show and sport was stretched so thin it was ready to tear, and Joshua just happened to be standing there when it finally snapped. I keep wondering about how confidence morphs into arrogance without anyone catching the precise moment it transforms, because that's what destroyed this entire thing, not the dreams, not the cash, but thinking that truth could be bargained with. If you yelled loud enough and gathered enough people around you, something deeply disturbing about watching a story implode live, because it reveals how much of what we experience as viewers depends on faith, and once that faith fractures, you start doubting everything backward, like how many moments you celebrated were genuine and how many were carefully cushioned to guarantee a result. Joshua didn't just claim victory, he brought back reality, and that's what people haven't fully understood yet, because reality doesn't go viral easily, but it sticks and it haunts fighters long after the spotlight spotlight fades and the commentary stop. I can't forget the contrast between training and publicity because one happens in darkness and the other needs attention to exist. And when they finally meet, the darkness always prevails, not spectacularly, not loudly, just completely like physics, reminding you it was never fooled by marketing. Really disturbs me is how standard it became to treat legitimate fighters as speed bumps in a narrative instead of warriors, with decades of knowledge and scars embedded in their reflexes, because once you turn them into story elements, you forget they can terminate your evening with one clean choice. There's also strange melancholy in understanding that even legends aren't safe from the machine, that even someone like Tyson can get swept into the pool of spectacle and profit because it demonstrates how strong the system has grown and how difficult it is to escape once you're trapped inside. I don't think people truly understand how unusual it is to witness a moment that reshuffles the power structure of a sport where suddenly the biggest voices go mute and the silent professionals are the only ones left with any credibility. Every replay of that knockout feels more significant, not because of the impact itself, but because of what it symbolizes: a boundary drawn between classes, a reminder that knowledge isn't just time invested but punishment absorbed and wisdom earned through suffering. There's irony in how chasing respectability ended up speeding up the death of pretense, because pursuing genuine competition means eventually finding it, and genuine competition doesn't consider marketing appearance or timing convenient. I keep questioning how many fighters witnessed that fight and experienced two conflicting feelings simultaneously: relief that the sport protected itself and terror that the same examination could focus on them if they ever miscalculate the distance between confidence and delusion. The aftermath matters more than the violence, because aftermath is where paths change, where teams reconsider, where matchmaking changes, and where fans adjust what they're prepared to accept the next time someone makes big promises. There's also wisdom here about timing, because Joshua didn't hurry to prove himself. He waited for the opportunity that was always coming, and that timing is something you only develop after years of being hurt for rushing. What makes this stick is that it didn't seem vicious or excessive. It seemed precise, which somehow makes it more devastating because there was no confusion to blame, just a systematic breakdown that left nowhere to point fingers but inward. I think the sport required this moment, even if it feared it, because without regular truth checks, boxing risks floating too far into performance, and performance without danger eventually becomes hollow, regardless of the production value. There's a silent accounting happening now, not just for one fighter, but for an entire philosophy of promoting fights, because viewers may still enjoy spectacle, but they just remembered how much they value honesty when it finally appeared. I can't shake the feeling that this will transform how crossover gets discussed moving forward, because crossover suggests equal respect between worlds, not one side borrowing legitimacy without completely earning it. The mental wounds might last longer than the physical ones, because once uncertainty enters at this level, it doesn't exit easily, and uncertainty is the one enemy you can't overcome with preparation or well. What haunts me most is how quickly respect becomes judgment when the mask falls, because the same crowd that embraces the fantasy will tear it apart ruthlessly once it crumbles, and that reversal is devastating if you're not ready for it. There's no neat conclusion here, no lesson wrapped up perfectly, just a feeling that something moved and hasn't found balance yet, like ground plates after a tremor where the aftershocks keep coming. And the most disturbing part is knowing this isn't the final act, because once the sport reveals a weakness this clearly, the next time it breaks could be even stronger, even uglier, and much less merciful than this time.